We've all had those days. We walk into a tournament with a knot in our stomach, fear for what is about to happen. The stress gets to us in a way that makes us lose control in crucial moments and undermines our performance. When the stage is set and it's time to perform, sometimes that pressure can be too much for us to handle. Hi, I'm Sean. I'm a mental performance coach, and I help people just like you take back control over their performances and execute the way they want. I want you to know that stress is something we all experience, but it's also something we can all manage. It's something that we can even turn into our weapon, using it in the right circumstances. A good example of this is December 1st, 2019. British Columbia hosted one of its first major Smash Ultimate tournaments, Play with Heart. Won by SoulCal legend Nico, a Shulk player with a long history of Smash, even outside of Ultimate.
Air slash, he can fall through so fast with it that he's not even being able to get punished. And
something Kron can't do.
Oh, and suddenly the back air with Smash Art, and Nico will take the entire tournament 3-1.
When he won the event and had the post-event interview, this is what he had to say about his victory.
If I'm trying to be too serious about things, it never works out for me.
Right.
I realized that if I'm too serious, then I put way too high expectations on myself. Another thing was that I stopped calling people bad. I'm like, oh, no, I can beat this guy, no problem. No. I stopped thinking that way, and I just started taking everyone as a challenge. If my opponent has gotten to me at this point in bracket, then he must be good. Mm-hmm. There's no other way around it.
This interview clip demonstrates a concept known as challenge threat appraisal. And it is something that anyone can use to overcome performance pressure and even make us thrive in high pressure environments. Maybe you're someone who has struggled in these types of environments and has thought to themselves, I'm simply not built for this isn't who I am, and this is just something I can't handle. That's not true. In fact, it's quite the opposite, and with the right steps, even you can utilize this concept to its full effectiveness, just like Nico did. It's all about your interpretation, and this is exactly what Nico changed. By the end of this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 building blocks that makes up challenge threat appraisal and how you can utilize it too and change your relationship with performance stress and pressure. We all know what stress feels like. Our heart rate goes up, we start breathing more rapidly, we start to worry about what's about to happen. That's normal. Challenge threat appraisal is built on the idea that stress can be both beneficial and debilitating to our performance. What matters though is our interpretation of it. In other words, our appraisal. We can learn to view stress as something beneficial that will fuel our performance to even greater heights. Think back to what you consider to be one of your best matches ever. I'm willing to bet it was against an opponent viewed to be slightly better than you. You walked into that match really wanting to prove yourself. Despite the symptoms of stress, you were focused and you played some of your best. That's because you viewed this match as a challenge to be overcome rather than a threat. And because of that appraisal, you were able to experience the positive symptoms of stress. And that is what's known as a challenge appraisal, in which we feel the physical symptoms of stress oncoming, and we now have a choice of how we want to appraise it. We could either appraise it as our body getting ready for the oncoming challenge, or we could appraise it as a threat that's about to happen that we need to avoid. It's like the saying, play to win, rather than playing to not lose. A study done by Moore and colleagues took a group of golfers and asked them to make 6 putts in a row from 3 different locations. The only difference between the groups was how they were told the instructions. The first group was told the task was difficult, but previous participants have done well. It's challenging, but doable. The second group were also told that the task was difficult, but that previous participants have failed. The task was shown to be threatening. The first group showed better overall performance, less error in their putts, and even lower levels of anxiety compared to the other group. What happened here was an example of reconstrual positive appraisal, and it is just one way to reappraise or reinterpret an event. Reconstrual appraisal is when you take an event and reframe it into a more positive light, bringing meaning into the oncoming challenge. The task of the putts was reframed from a threatening task into something challenging, a demanding but achievable task. This is because they knew success was possible from previous trials. The participants turned their anxiety into confidence and were able to use that to mobilize their efforts and perform even better. This is all from a small difference within a set of instructions. No expensive programs or interventions that the players were put through. No, just a simple reframing of events were able to cause their anxiety to go down and even boost their performance. And this is exactly what Nico did, without even knowing any of this information. He stopped feeling threatened by his opponents, and in his words, he started taking everyone seriously and viewed them as a challenge, something to be overcame, something to be achieved, rather than a potential failure to be avoided. He stopped calling his opponents bad, and he's right to do so. Nobody really wants to lose to a bad player. It makes the situation feel all the more threatening, fear that you might even be made fun of. So why not remove the threat from the situation and make it something more objective? Your opponent presents a challenge to be overcome, and you need to try your best to, well, overcome it. That's really all there is to it. Many modern esports have been around for years, and especially in a case like Smash Ultimate, the average skill floor nowadays after a game that's been developed for 8, almost 9 years at this point, is pretty high. We don't really have time to be loafing around in our early rounds or calling people bad or writing anyone off anymore. Competition is pretty difficult nowadays, but that's an exciting thing. The question then becomes, can anyone do this? Absolutely, but before you jump into your next tournament with these ideas in mind, there are 3 key principles that are crucial to know that will determine the effectiveness of your reappraisals. Give meaning to your sets. Think about why you compete. Is it for money, social status, self-betterment? Whatever the case may be, the set needs to feel important to you. It needs to affect something you care about. Otherwise, there will be a lack of pressure and you will feel disengaged. If the set is important, if it holds that meaning, if it is relevant to your goals and motivations, your body will recognize that and begin to experience stress. It is telling you that this set is important. Remember, stress isn't bad, irrelevance is. Challenge threat appraisal functions off the idea that stress can be both good and bad. If stress isn't there to begin with, then you can't possibly experience the benefits of it. Playing in high pressure situations more often will help us become acclimated to stress. We experience stress because of the meaning and importance we place on events. It is easier to find that meaning when it's grand finals of an event or fighting a rival, but in the earlier rounds, it's really hard to find that. I mean, that's a reason we see money match culture so prominent at major events, because people like to put that meaning on the match via external stakes. Friendlies don't have relevance, there's nothing to lose, but when there's money on the line and we do have something to lose, all of a sudden we start to play better because of that pressure, because we choose to put more effort in. Take Spargo's intense climb to rank 1 in 2024. It gave every single one of his sets enough meaning to make him play better and push through and actually obtain that ranking. His desire to be the best haunted him so badly. I mean, he knows how frail of a ranking it is. One bad loss, it's over. One bad tournament, your chances are now next to none. And he knew that going into every single set he played. He knew this going into every single set for an entire year. And this extra pressure, this extra meaning, allowed him to take advantage and play even better. The best he has ever had. The best that is deserving of #1 in the world. Without that extra meaning, I really doubt he actually would have been able to get there. No pressure means no growth. The second element is control. This is where your brain decides to go down either the challenge or threat route of appraisal. It compares the demands of the situation to the resources that you perceive are available to you. What resources am I talking about though? It's your skill, your preparation, your ability to access what you've trained both physically, mentally, and technically when it matters. Things like knowing what actions are available to you in this moment. Have you studied the current opponent or matchup? Do you have the mental skills necessary to cope with the current situation? When fighting a player that's a higher seed, on paper you should lose. But remember, this comparison isn't based on reality, it's based on your perception of the situation at hand. Players often think to themselves, if they don't have control over the outcome, they don't have any control at all. But that can't be further from the truth. Instead, this is where we fall back on past experiences, training, lessons learned, and things of that nature. If your perceived resources equal or outweigh the demands at hand, then congrats, you're one step closer to entering a challenge appraisal. However, on the contrary, if you perceive the situation to be greater than the resources you think you have available to you, then you might enter a threat appraisal. Once you do that, entering a threat appraisal, your focus will then shift from execution to outcome. And that is when we start experiencing the negative symptoms of stress, the worry, the anxiety, fear of a potential loss that is in our near future. This is why you'll hear people say they feel they played worse in the face of an unfamiliar situation or a matchup. You can't be prepared for every situation in a game like Smash Ultimate. So what then? Do we just give up and accept the threat of a situation because we weren't prepared for it? No, this is where we change our focus. We fall back to the goals we've been working on, something we can apply to any general situation, our overall game plans. This is why it's important we set practical, skill-based goals for ourselves, otherwise known as process goals. These are goals that are always within our control. It serves as an anchor for us when things go south. Let's take a look at a really good recent example, Sonics vs Udace at LMBM 2026. In the middle of the set, Sonics was shown to relax and meditate for a few moments. Mindfulness meditation is all about the idea of control, being able to place your attention where you want it to be, when you want it to be. Sonics knew what was going wrong and knew what he had to fix. Instead of focusing on the outcome, or fixating too heavily on what Udace was doing, Sonics decided to approach the next couple of games focusing on what he could control, his disadvantage. Prior to this turning point, Sonics would reversal off of ledge, have similar get-up timings, and Udace would get a lot off of any given hit. After, he had more focus, more control over his mix-ups, options, and would be a bit more defensive. Allowing him to win the set in a reverse 3-0.
Can you find the kill? Yes, he can with the drop zone bear, and Sonics is going to take it game 5, moving on to winners finals.
Great reverse clear by the kid, bro.
These are all great examples of things we can control in a match. Ultimately, we feel more comfortable when we are in control. Those with a challenge appraisal will be able to know what to focus on regardless of an opponent's skill level or relevant matchup experience they may possess. They know what to do, one game at a time, rather than trying to focus on something out of their control, something outside of their knowledge base. Self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is the belief that you can execute the skills you want to in a specific situation. While the last section was more so about what one should focus on, this is more about the idea, the reflection that you believe you can actually do it. And that is what high self-efficacy looks like. It is maintaining confidence under pressure and belief in your execution. We've probably all heard the saying at one point that when under pressure, we commonly fall back to the quality of our training. But in order to do that, we first must believe in our training and believe in the fact that we can execute upon it even in the middle of the chaos of performance. Nico, Sonics, Spargo, the players I've mentioned up until this point have all been world-ranked players and have accomplished pretty crazy things throughout their careers. Their self-efficacy is high because they've been able to show themselves and the world that they are able to accomplish their goals and do some pretty crazy things along the way. But not everyone is a really well-accomplished world-ranked player like they are. So if that's the case, then what should you do to build your self-efficacy? My advice to you is to build your evidence base. Celebrate your achievements with friends, write down notable moments, and just have proof that you've accomplished your goals before and you can do it again. We can look back at the past as a sign for the future. Self-efficacy isn't about believing that you're perfect, no. It's about believing that when it matters, you could still play your game the way that you want to. So in short, stress can actually benefit your performance as long as these 3 things line up. The meaning you bring to a match, belief that your tools are right for the situation, and trust in your own ability to execute. If you feel stuck on any of these 3 or other aspects of your mental game, book a session with me. As a mental performance coach, it is my job to help people perform when they need to, how they want to. If you're also interested in learning a bit more about sports psychology and how it ties into Smash and esports as a whole, I'm going to be running a webinar soon. The information should be right around here, the infographic. It's about self-regulation and deliberate practice, 2 topics that I feel are very overlooked in esports as a whole, and how you can get more meaning and more efficiency out of your practices. And with that being said, I really hope to see you guys on the other side, whether it's in the form of a one-on-one coaching session or in my webinar. I really hope this video meant something to you and you were able to take away some useful information out of it. Also, huge shout outs to RobbieAK 47 for editing this video for me. He did an amazing job. Anyways, take care.